Markiplier was recently on a podcast where he shared more details on the creative process going into the movie Iron Lung. This podcast being called Lemonade Stand, hosted by none other than Douglas Duggery, otherwise known as Doug Doug, the guy who invented the stairs, otherwise known as Atrioc, and some dude I could have sworn I've seen in my dreams somewhere. It's during Mark's conversation with these folk that they bring up some really interesting points, and Mark provides some more insight into his mindset and his creative process altogether. And while I recommend you watch the original video, as their full conversation is pretty insightful and engaging.
You're not human if you don't want a little selfishness, and so reminding
Do something valuable with your platform.
I'm better than all of you. I'm better.
But in this video, I wanted to mainly bullet point some of Markiplier's advice to potential aspiring creators out there who eventually want to see their works brought to screen, or to whatever medium they happen to be working towards. While Markiplier's story of YouTuber turned independent filmmaker finding success can be pretty inspiring, Mark raises a solid point in claiming that you should recognize your circumstances and the resources you have to work with. Markiplier is constantly reiterating the fact that he is in a very fortunate position to be able to make something like this. But he only got to this position by working hard for many years. From garnering a fan base on YouTube by relatively uploading pretty consistently, and creating content that he himself finds entertaining or would want to see. He's also made attempts that have failed in breaking through to the cinematic scene as well. And sure, while he did accumulate the resources to be able to afford a lot of the things he has, again, through his own hard work, it's also important to acknowledge the skill set he slowly garnered over time. A lot of comments I'll see are people talking about how Markiplier just randomly decided to make a movie off a game he played, when in reality, the production of something like this is a lot more of a taxing process than you may think. A process that requires not only passion, but a skill that is accumulated over time and experience. You gotta keep in mind, it took him about 14 years of hard work and dedication and even failures to get to this point that he has now. But that shouldn't be seen as discouraging, as a lot of the advice he gives throughout this podcast is definitely geared towards aspiring creatives and provides a lot of hope to anybody who sees the industry as such a hard medium to carve yourself a path into.
At the same time, I've been building my audience. I've been doing both. I've been making sketches since I started. I have been learning about camera cinematography and editing, and I've been learning all the disciplines to do this. Even if people don't think it, like YouTube original things that I did, those are longer than movies. The In Space with Markiplier was a much more complicated and involved shoot than Iron Lung was. We have to recognize there that there is still a road for people to travel, and they are not at the pinnacle of the mountain yet for their skill. And so one of the greatest things that you can do is recognize that YouTube is a beautiful place to put your projects that are building those skills.
And while Mark did contribute both the writing, the acting, and the editing to this film, which I'll get into in a moment, he also relied upon people that he knew were not only as equally passionate, but also as equally skilled. People who could not only provide a relatively positive vibe to the set that they were working within, but people who were so dedicated to their craft that they put 100% of their skill set into this project, which definitely translates to screen when you look at things like the makeup, the set, and even the sound design. When putting together a team of people for this project, he not only found people with creative ambition, but also people that he knew worked hard and had talent destined to be represented someday. And now, with the resources acquired, he was ready to initiate this huge project in Iron Lung. Part of this involved not cutting corners when it cut to the financial implementations throughout the film. By that I mean, Mark talks about how they were originally going to do the Iron Lung set on a moving wheel stand, but he quickly realized that it would be much better to get an actual contraption that allows for moving the submarine in all the different motions that it would need to. Something that would translate to screen in the best way possible, despite being a little more expensive. But to establish quality within this film, Mark didn't need to just constantly throw money at this project. An example of this would be how, rather than hiring out to a VFX studio to get a lot of the visuals we see throughout the film, in what would be a relatively expensive cost, he decided to instead go the route that would not only take more time, but cost him more work. That in establishing his very own render farm so he could work on the editing process and VFX with his own team and by himself, resulting in some of the shots we see like the opening of the film as the Iron Lung descends into the sea of blood. Then you have Markiplier's approach to being more adaptive to the situations at hand. By that I mean, while he does admit to being a little bit of a control freak and not wanting things like executive interference changing the creative integrity of his film, he is someone that genuinely values the creative input on those that are just as passionate about the project as he is.
If Disney showed up and said, we're going to give you $50 million to make
Avatar 4.
where's your head on that? Is that something you would be interested in or no?
They wouldn't give me control. I don't like being beholden to anybody else's opinion besides the creative team. I listen to the creatives that are part of it. I'm not saying that there aren't executives at studios that are creatively fulfilled, but if they're not on set with me, seeing it happen, I don't trust them.
He also adds that it's not only important to listen to your cast and crew, but also not be so controlling of the shot or moment that you keep people there for way longer than they need to in order to get something just right in the way you want it. Sort of an opposite approach to creators like Stanley Kubrick, who have been known to keep his actors there to retake a shot, mostly all day or multiple days in a row, just to get it down perfectly. Another important trait aspiring creatives should strive for is that of dedication. While filming for this project had wrapped all the way back in 2023, Mark also had to juggle a couple of other projects during its post-production. That being in starting a new podcast on Spotify or taking up more responsibility within his clothing brand. It's that he took the only free time in his schedule, that being weekends, to work on the actual project, which he claims took up a majority of his free time and even pushed back important things like his marriage. And reiterating that if his partner wasn't so supportive and understanding of the situation, he probably wouldn't have embarked on it. Another important takeaway from the process in making this film is both consistency and dedication. For example, you have the sonar console, this thing within the submarine in the movie that indicates what movement is happening around what area in the ship. He claims that originally they filmed the entire thing so that the sonar movements were always at the north end of the sonar. However, it's during post-production that he realized he had to make adjustments so that everything translated relatively well to screen. He admits that most people watching the movie probably got the relative idea for how it worked, but in his free time, he still took the dedication and went in there and adjusted things accordingly. Which, to be fair, I'll have to wait till the movie's officially out on Blu-ray to see some of those differences, as he claims you can spot some between both the trailer and the scenes within the movie itself. And if I have to go to Mark's house directly and rip a cold hard Blu-ray copy from his hands, then I'll do it. And finally, an important takeaway from Mark's advice is to simply do what you love. A lot of people would assume that Mark's next steps are to sort of leave YouTube in the rearview window and focus on his filmmaking creative career. Only Mark has already established that he fully intends to still work on YouTube videos. And while he does touch on subjects like providing quality content so audiences keep wanting to engage, at the end of the day, he admits that he just likes making YouTube videos. A thing they touch on in this podcast is how he doesn't really necessarily believe in sponsoring for products or trying to create products, as he would rather create something he knows his audience would really want.
I think that the important thing to recognize, though, is pretty much everything, even in those of free marketing, it's just a different type of currency, right? So your audience has a trust, and you have taken their time and given them content and entertainment, and you have this transactional, that's a very business way of putting it, but in a way they are giving time, the most valuable thing they have, to you, and this trust is built up to not abuse that exchange, right?
Versus Mark wants to be able to provide a sort of relationship where he provides the quality enough content that his audience has faith in whatever his next project is. And again, while I don't really watch much of his content on YouTube, I assume that same dedication and consistency is what a lot of other creatives should aspire for, as long as you're passionate about it. And sometimes your passions change or expand in different ways you can't expect. Should that happen, it's important to have faith and confidence in yourself and give yourself the opportunity to embark on that journey in any way that you can. Markiplier even providing tips in distributing his film to theaters everywhere he can, claiming a lot of theaters just want to make money, and if you could even just have your own personal independent film show to one theater for just a couple of people, then the quality of the content will dictate how much further you can really keep this sort of creative passion going. For proof in the pudding, let's just keep in mind that Markiplier was even offered to simply distribute Iron Lung to 3 theaters only. Had he not held his integrity and advocated for more theater screenings, this could have severely hindered the release of Iron Lung altogether. But instead, Markiplier applied many of the creative tips I've listed within this very video, as well as many experiences he's had with his journey being a creative, to apply to a project that I personally see as a great success, in accomplishing everything narratively and cinematically that it needed to. Sure, it might not be your cup of tea, but if you're a fan of cosmic horror, then you know this is a great addition to the cinematic genre. But I want to know what you guys think. Are there parts of Mark's story that you find inspiring or you think other creatives should know about in their own personal journeys? What lessons can we share amongst each other to not only inspire, but embolden our creative mindset? By the way, if you want to hear more about Iron Lung, feel free to check out my review, or if you want to hear more about the lore of the universe behind it, you can check out that video as well. Otherwise, thank you for watching, enjoy the rest of your day, and remember to give yourself a chance. Oh, and watch Lemonade Stand, I guess.
For what purpose do we remain alone in the dark? Where's the reason for this quiet rapture? Too few to rebuild,